there's a lot of like stuff in here that when my family saw it, they're like, like, they threw a lot of personal family stuff in the
Not
script.
not the big foot for president t-shirt, surely.
So that was written into the script. That was actually so the guy who sold his house to finance it. He owns a t-shirt company. So when I was
Oh
writing
wow,
the script, I went on his website. I saw that shirt and I was like, "That's fucking
that's
perfect."
the
So it's
one.
literally like on the script. It's like walks in with a Bigfoot for president shirt. The one thing that Nick added to that was it was his idea to make it a crop top, which
Crop
was
top.
fucking brilliant. Yeah, yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome to another exclusive interview from the ScreenTime team at AVForums. And tonight we're lucky enough to talk to the writer, director, editor, and co-producer of the superb The Last Stop in Yuma County. Recently released on a brilliant Blu-ray special edition from Arrow Video, Mr. Francis Galluppi. Welcome, Francis, and thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. So I'm just going to jump straight in because what
Cool.
interests me with you is you don't appear to have had the traditional born with a movie camera in hand route into filmmaking. So can you tell us about your personal journey to the last stop in Yuma County? Where did it start and how did it end up here?
Yeah, it's kind of a bonker story. I'll try and give you the Cliff Notes version. I mean, my background is music. I like played in punk bands and went to college for music, and that was like my whole life was like touring in crappy punk bands. And but that sort of built that like DIY ethos. It was like
Hmm.
in my blood. And yeah, when I broke my wrist and couldn't play drums for like 6 months, and then picked up a camera, just like a T2i with the nifty 50 on there, and I made a short film around the house with my wife and I. And yeah, kind of was like, oh shit, I think I want to do this now. Where I had like I was always way more interested in cinema, and like I was always the one in the back of the van
Yeah.
with headphones on watching Hitchcock, and so yeah, from there it was really just like, yeah, I took the Academy of YouTube, right? Like I was like got my friends together and my bandmates, and I started writing short stories like just based on locations that we had free access to, because we were making these short films for like $200, and
Absolutely.
like yeah. So yeah, and just kind of like learn how to do all that stuff on YouTube, edit, VFX, sound design, score, and like so we were actually able to make these things for like no money. And yeah, and then so my first short, this thing called High Desert Hell, played at a festival in Cincinnati. I think it was like 2019, maybe. Um, anyway, nobody showed up to the screening, but there was one guy in the audience, and his name's James, and he owns a clothing company and saw the short and was like, "Yo, I'll give you 50 grand for whatever you do next." Which for me, that was insane. I was like, I can make 10
Yeah.
features for that because what the fuck did I know? Um, and so, yeah, I kind of took the same approach that I took with the short films, where I found this location, Four Aces in Lancaster, and I wrote a script specifically for that location.
Yeah.
And then from there, it was just a lot of ups and downs. It was like at one point we were going to make the movie with for like $5 million, and we were all this
Wow.
shit, and like, yeah, that was all bullshit, right? Like, and it was just a waste of time. So like once I sort of got the rights back to the script, I was like, I'm just gonna do this the way I originally was planning on doing it,
Yeah.
which is gonna make it for like 100 grand. And I started writing letters to all these actors that I sort of had in mind when I was writing the script. All these indie darlings like Jocelyn and Jim, and I saw uh, Sierra and the Vast Night, and Nick and I Care a Lot, and Mike, and Death of Dick Long, and I just I sort of had these actors in mind, and I got really lucky. Like everyone said yes, and um, I guess I just pretended like we had money. Like I was going to the location, I was photo boarding everything. We just prepped like really extensively. I started hiring HODs. The whole thing was casted, but we had no money. And um, eventually, the guy James, who originally gave me the 50,000.
Yeah.
Ended up selling his house to finance it. And so it was like
Wow.
very, very independent. Like it was just sort of, it was like summer camp every day. There's no like suits walking around, and it was just like, it was a real fucking passion project. It was amazing.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. And I think
Yeah.
right from the get-go, the mood of Livestock really got me. It felt meticulously planned, like with High Desert Hell, there's a timeless character-driven quality, an isolated location, bubbling undercurrent of escalating tension, but laced with some really lovely idiosyncratic character beats. How do you find that mood and get it to the screen intact?
So yeah, it's a weird thing, it's like you write something on the page. I mean, the movies are always sort of like an evolution, right? Like it's one thing on
Yeah,
the page, it's another thing when you're shooting, it's another thing when you're editing. And I like there was always these sort of larger than life characters in the script, but specifically like Nick Logan and Connor, those two guys, like once they were on set, and I mean, what we would do is like I would jump on Zooms with every actor individually before we uh, showed up, and like we would just comb through the script, and like anything that felt contrived, I would like rewrite it on the spot. We'd really find the character by jumping on these like one-on-one Zooms. But especially with Nick and Connor, like I mean, what Nick brought, like I was just like, mm, give me more. Like this is so much fucking fun. And I remember, my cinematographer and he's like one of my best friends. He shot everything I've ever done, and um, I remember telling Nick like, yeah, do more, go bigger. And Mac was just like, yeah, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what is happening right now, And you sort of have to recognize that. And like I told Mac, I was like, you need to get on board with the movie we're making now, not the movie
yeah,
we talked about 2 weeks ago. You know what I mean? It's constantly like, if you see something and it works, you lean in. And
yeah.
especially like with Nick, like, I mean, he just showed up and was just like, he was Travis, like that was him. Um, but I always love writing characters, there's like
Yeah.
a fine line between, characters and caricatures, and like trying to find that sort of balance,
So,
makes it fun.
what? Oh, absolutely. And I just wondered back to that then. What was the one thing on set then that someone did that surprised you the most? Given that sort of what you've just described, that evolution finding the character, did anyone do anything that just caught you totally off guard on set and then you kept it in the film?
Yeah. There was one moment. So there's that like long fucking oneer where Richard Brake is sitting across from Jocelyn and Jim.
Yeah.
And that was all scripted, they got it, but no one was expecting Rich to like scream, got it. And it scared the shit out of everybody. Like everybody fucking jumped. And it was just like that was his sort of take on that monologue. And it was so good. And scary, and yeah. And then after that, I sort of like rewrote Jim's whole freak out in the parking lot to
Oh, wow.
include got it. And yeah, so
Right.
that was a big moment. I mean, that it's funny, I've never talked about this on a podcast, but um or an interview. The scene with where like David and Sarah show up with the baby, that whole thing.
Yeah.
Um that was uh that was totally different before. Like it literally took place in the
Really?
diner. Yeah, and I went home over the weekend and I rewrote that scene. Uh, and I like showed up on Monday and like handed everybody the new sides. And I guess I have talked about this, but this was a really funny moment. So I was like handed fucking everybody their sides, and Jim comes out of his trailer and he's like, Fran, so you want me to freak out in a parking lot? And I was like, yeah, what's up, dude? What's the problem? He's like, come on, dude. And I was like, oh, that's right. You freaked out. You've had parking lot freakouts. And all of your movies. Uh, it was not intentional. Maybe subconsciously it was, but yeah. But I'm glad we pivoted to that because it's one of my favorite moments of, you know, especially with Jim, just seeing that sort of like that turn, that arc in his character is really fun.
Fantastic. And
Yeah.
about that diner, you managed to take a fairly small, almost single location and you make it endlessly intriguing through shot choices, framing, composition. How did you approach that? What was your biggest challenge? Because you must have looked at that and gone, I've got to make every one of these shots interesting, and I've got four walls and 100 square feet. How
Yeah.
did you stop that from making like staging?
Yeah, that was a big thing, you know. It was like, how do we make this not look like a stage play? And utilizing every corner and you know, it's really sort of going back to the basics of filmmaking. Like you know, I feel like there was a version of this movie that I had shot listed when we thought we had like X amount of dollars. And I was like, we have a techno
Right.
crane and we have this and that, and we're going to build a diner so we can remove walls and blah, blah, blah. And then once we found out what our actual budget was, like it was like, okay, we have a tripod and like maybe a fucking slider, maybe, you know. And it sort of forced us to go
Wow.
back to the drawing board and be like, what is the most simple version of
Hmm.
this scene? And like where I always think about it, like if where do you put the camera to evoke an emotion? Where if the sound was off, you knew exactly what was going on.
Right. Yeah.
And really just like exploring like here I can kind of show you I have this is my sort of like book of like
Oh, wow.
this is all the shot designers, so every shot is like very meticulously planned and like uh
Wow.
yeah, so that it was just it was being very, you know, uh precise on like what we were doing. There was never a moment where we were like, I don't know, let's just get coverage. Like it was very much like paint by numbers in the edit. It was like we kind of
Yeah.
shot for the edit.
Right.
But yeah, it's a weird thing,
Fantastic.
right? When you are shooting in one location, it's like it's you know, I was watching like Dial M for Murder and Rope and The Silence de la Mer and like all these single location movies,
Yeah.
Death Trap and but those all sort of do feel like a stage play. You know, so it was like trying to distinguish like what is it that makes these feel like a play.
Yeah.
And yeah, so but thank you.
Superb.
Yeah.
No problem at all. I mean, I was absolutely fascinated by it. I was almost waiting for it, to see, oh, there's that shot again. Yeah, there's that shot again. No, no, not at all. It never
Yeah.
once felt like it was that single look. And it helped that you kind of cut away at various bits and you went outside and you went over to the motel and there was, occasionally
Hmm.
to the police station and all that kind of stuff. But even within it, it was that beautiful. You use the location to amp up the emotion, drive that tension up, and yeah, till it kind of
Well, you know
exploded.
what?
No
It's
spoilers.
yeah, it was funny because like there was a version of this movie where we could have we could have just did block shot the whole thing, you know, like
Yeah.
okay, today we're just getting Rich and Nick and we're shooting all their shit and then they can go home and then we're going to shoot all of Jim's stuff. And I just didn't want to do that, you know. So and sometimes
Oh,
it was like oh like it was like oh man, we're really doing another setup just so like Jim can give a look, you know what I mean? And so at times it did feel like what are we doing here? But I think in the end like it really helped us, right? It felt like
yeah.
um uh we were all basically shooting the movie in order, and so it really just helped like the actors with like the sort of emotional arc with everybody. And
Yeah.
I'm so glad we didn't just block shoot the whole thing because it would have been boring too, you know.
Oh, superb. Enough of the visuals. Given your
Yeah.
background, music plays a huge role in the film. And there are some
Yeah.
superb needle drops in there. How do you go about choosing them? And did you get all the ones you wanted?
Yeah, so all that was written into the script and very, very precise with like timestamps on the page of like
Wow.
exactly where we're gonna what we're gonna see during what second of the song. All that stuff
Okay.
is written in. Yeah, so and I knew I had to get the rights like before we even. showed up because I wanted the actors singing along. So yeah, we did get everything I wanted. I think there was a Stone Pony song that when like Connor's driving that we didn't get, but that's about it, man. So my composer just like wrote a little tune there. But yeah, man, like that was all baked into the script. So it was really exciting when I found out that like we were actually going to be able to use Midnight Train to Georgia and like Crying and like all these fucking songs that I kind of
So
just, I
eclectic,
was,
but it brilliant, absolutely brilliant. The soundtrack's not left my Spotify playlist for a month.
yeah,
Superb.
yeah. Oh,
Uh,
thanks, man.
and I've got to ask, do you really like rhubarb pie?
So rhubarb pie is like just something that my mom would make all the time. Like it's sort of a
Really?
family thing. Yeah, yeah. It's actually a thing that my mom makes all the time.
Well, do you like it?
Do I like it? Yeah, I
Yeah.
like strawberry rhubarb pie more, but yes, I do. There's a lot of like stuff in here that when my family saw it, they're like, like, they threw a lot of personal family stuff in the
Not
script.
not the
So
Bigfoot for President t-shirt, surely.
that was written into the script. That was actually so the guy who sold his house to finance it, he owns a t-shirt company. So when I
Oh
was writing
wow.
the script, I went on his website, I saw that shirt, and I was like, "That's fucking
That's
perfect."
the
So it's
one.
literally like on the script, it's like walks in with a Bigfoot for president shirt. The one thing that Nick added to that was it was his idea to make it a crop top, which
Crop
was
top.
fucking brilliant. Yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, the first
Superb.
time when he showed up to the fitting, he cut it like right below the fucking nipples, and I was like, "No, dude, like we got to find a happy medium here."
No one's looking at
So
the eyes, man. No one's looking at the
yeah,
eyes.
yeah, exactly. So I'm glad we found the just the right amount, you know.
Oh,
Um, yeah,
fantastic. Well, your hat has already answered my next question. Because I was going to ask, how do you watch movies at home?
physical media. I mean, there's still some stuff I'll stream or rent, but like for the most part, I mean, I'm a huge collector of physical media. I don't know if you saw, but they just announced Criterion just announced with Nail and I got really excited.
Oh,
Um,
Arrow have had that out in 4K over in the UK for months. We're over that.
oh shit, that's right. Yeah, yeah. You guys are working on a whole different fucking thing. Yeah, I need to get a Region B player, man. I'm like, yeah, been putting that off
So,
for
what
too
have you
long.
watched this week? What's the best thing you've watched at home this week?
This week, all right, let me think. I watched, I rewatched Little Children. I watched, oh God, what else? I watched For Your Consideration, the Christopher Guest movie. Um, oh man, I watched Gattaca this week. They just put it on
Oh,
the Criterion channel.
yeah,
That movie's brilliant. That's what I can think of this week. I know there's more, but
superb.
yeah, yeah,
And well, obviously, you mentioned in your in-depth interview on the Arrow disc that you're such an avid physical media fan that the extra features became part of your film school. That's where
hmm
you started to understand and learn, what it was all about. What are some of your favorite special features then? Either just because they're the funniest, the best, the most helpful. What are some of the
yeah.
best ones that you ever saw?
So the snowball effect, the clerk stock was
Yeah.
really inspiring. I have a weird one that I've talked about a few times. I don't know why it always comes to my mind. There's a bonus feature called Tainted Blood on the Bordello of Blood Shout Factory Blu-ray, and it's just the most batshit crazy story of trying to make a movie with a bunch of fucking cocky assholes and like it I don't know. If you haven't seen it, it's really sad but fucking hilarious and yeah. Um, so I'm gonna put
I'm going to
that one
grab
up
that
there.
disc just for that.
You should watch it. It's fucking nuts, dude. It's
Uh,
basically just like Corey Feldman just like saying how this movie kind of ruined his career, and it's really sad, but it's fucking hilarious. It almost feels like a mockumentary. Um,
We'll have to see that now. We'll have to
yeah,
see
yeah.
that. And I mean, you're all over the Arrow Blu-ray, which is an absolutely superb release. How hands-on were you with the overall content of it? And was there anything you wanted to get on there that didn't end up getting on there?
Yeah, Arrow was awesome, man. They really took all like, I was across everything and they were so incredible to work with. Like, I pitched the idea of like, oh, I want the booklet to look like a old like pulp novel, and they were down. And so it was very, very hands-on. Yeah, we just did the commentary tracks in my office, and no, man, everything was in there. I mean, there's like a 10-minute sizzle of a documentary called Sell Your House. I would have loved for that whole doc to be on there, but that's like
How
a
long
different
was it?
filmmaker. Oh, it's long as fuck. It's
Oh
not done
wow.
yet. He's still like shooting.
Ah.
Yeah. It's my buddy Eric Foss. He's a documentary filmmaker. And when he heard the story that like James sold his house and stuff, he was like, "Hey, can I show up on set for a day or two and just like shoot like a featurette?" And I was like, yeah, of course, that sounds awesome. And then it slowly just started consuming his entire life. Like
Wow.
he was there for the all of principal photography, and then afterwards he was like, I'm going to film the edit, and then I'm going to film the festival circuit and distribution and this. And at one point, I saw like a 6 hour cut, and I was like, what is he was like, I'm going to make it a series. And he's still filming. Like he's coming over tomorrow. He's like, I just need this one little bit. And like, I mean, he is it completely consumed his life. And I hope that he just gets this thing done, and we can just go back to being friends. uh, but like, yeah, I mean, I think the end in the end, it's probably going to be like, I don't know, an hour 45 maybe. It's a
Wow.
really interesting story that delves into like a lot more than just boots on the ground filmmaking. Like it's sort of, yeah, it's really interesting. I haven't seen the latest cut, but what I have seen
Fantastic.
was really good.
Super. That sounds like it gets its own disc in the 4K re-release.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's the
Fantastic.
plan.
Oh, superb. And finally, Francis, is Evil
Uh-huh.
Dead next for you?
Yes, Evil Dead's next for me. I have like a Western that I'm really excited about that I wrote a few years ago that Taylor Sheridan's company, Bosque Ranch, is producing. So we're gonna do that afterwards. And but yeah, yeah, Evil Dead's next. So head down
As
working on that.
well, I'll just say I've seen some of your videos on YouTube, and as a self-confessed nerd, you must be in heaven with that.
I must be what?
You must be in heaven. You've got the keys to
Oh,
the Evil Dead kingdom.
yeah. I mean, it's pretty wild. I mean, like, no joke. I mean, Evil Dead is like one of my favorite. I mean, I have Evil Dead shit all over my office. I, yeah, like it was. I remember when we were shooting High Desert Hell, which thank you for watching, by the way. I'm embarrassed that you did watch it, but like, thank you. Uh,
Oh,
uh,
it's brilliant.
What's oh, dude, I mean, thank you. Yeah, that was we had no idea what the fuck we were doing on that thing. But yeah, I remember me, my buddy Scott, and my buddy Matt like took a picture on that short film, trying to replicate an old image of like Sam, Bruce, and Rob, and they've been such like heroes of mine for so long that like it's weird. It's very strange, and surreal and like yeah, I just I don't know. I really do fucking love and care about Evil Dead. So yeah.
Fantastic. And any nuggets you can tell us about? Anything at all?
Oh man, I wish, dude. I wish. Soon. Soon.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
well,
So
really looking forward to seeing what you do with the Deadites. Really am, especially after Last Stop, which honestly, absolutely fantastic film. Really enjoyed it on a stellar release from Arrow.
wow, thanks
Uh,
so
so,
much,
so
man.
that's me done, Francis. Thank you so much for your time today. Really
Of course,
appreciate it.
man.
And
Nah, I appreciate you. Thank you so much,
I
man.
no worries at all. Wish you all the best and look forward to seeing. Well, for starters, want to see Evil Dead as soon as possible. So get back to work.
Yeah, I will. Thank you, sir. All right, man. We'll have a good one.
Super, you too. Thanks, Francis.
All right, take care. Bye bye.
Cheers, you too.